over here.
This meeting is being recorded.
Why? Well, it's for the people who didn't hear it the first time, right? Okay, welcome to the January 2023 Omaha Astronomical Society meeting. Yay! And there was much rejoicing. We all know this by heart now about meeting moments. We'll just keep on going. Do we have any guests with us here? One, you were a guest last month.
It could be a guest.
Still
again.
a guest. That's still good though. You can introduce yourself again if you want. Nah. Anybody else? Yes. Hi. How'd you hear about us? Oh, cool. Welcome. Is there anybody in Zoom land that's here a guest? Tim. Tim, you want to tell us about yourself? Tim can't hear me. That's okay. It's all right. So if you decide to become a member of OAS, you will also be a member of the Astronomical League and will receive their quarterly magazine, The Reflector. You get access to Astro Park, our observing site in Weeping Water, Nebraska. It's our little dark site. We have a great telescope loan program where you can try out a telescope and experience the different types that there are. Our wonderful monthly newsletter, The Stella, has lots of articles and information about the club and things going on. We also have a disc, yes? Oh. Am I not showing up on that camera? Oh, I see. What if I do this? The back, well, then they can see the people at home can see everybody. Okay, we have I talked about that. Discord members can also vote on motions during the business meeting. Ooh, that's the exciting part. We have a couple upcoming dates. Next Tuesday is Astronomy in the Parks and the Library Telescope Workday. That's going to be more in the outreach portion. We already know about Misral groups and the Night Sky Network. Has anybody been to Astro Park in the past month? I know there was a couple people doing pictures last month. Yeah. I'd say 2 at least. You haven't been done, have you, Steve? Okay. Well, I know that somebody said that it got really cold that night that they were doing imaging out there. Was it John, I think? Yeah. We'll say 2. Awards chair, are you presenting tonight? Oh. I'm gonna turn off the screen share temporarily so that we can see, oops. Go back here. This is not the easiest thing. Okay.
All right. Oh, should I hold it here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I do have a couple of awards to hand out. I also have a couple of awards that are on their way, but have been for weeks now. So not sure what happened. Sorry, Mr. Motorson. Hopefully we'll hear back from the person who sends the awards on how those were sent. But I do have a couple that we did receive for one of our members, Mr. Condry. And I wanted to read, they sent a very nice letter along with the award. So the award is the Lunar Observing and the Lunar Binocular Observing programs. So he's gotten both of those, which is why he has 2 awards. Fantastic stuff. Yes. Very cool stuff. So I wanted to read real quick just a couple of the paragraphs from the very nice letter that the Astronomical League sent. As you know, the Lunar Observing Program requires 100 observations of lunar features at different times and under different sun angles and represents a lot of effort. Deep sky observers often overlook the richness of features that lie on the surface of the moon, which is, after all, the closest of all worlds. Hopefully you were introduced to some new vistas. I hope you will consider pursuing the Lunar 2 program, which is even more interesting and challenging. So what I have here, the pin is also in here. I think the pins are really cool. In fact, they gave you a nice little case that goes with that as well. Kind of show that up there. Yeah, it's kind of cool, right? And so what we have here is the Lunar Binocular Observing Certificate and the Lunar Observing Certificate, both of them. So a big round of applause for Mr. Condry.
I'm gonna go over.
Shall we? Do you think we should do pictures?
Yeah, go over there. That way you don't, not in the projector
Yeah.
light up field. Oh, wow.
Shall we? Do you want to hold one and hold the other?
Sure.
One back.
Chuck Allen.
Yeah.
At least
Big smile.
it looks like it's got both, yeah.
Yeah.
They-
The Chuck signature.
Right, and those are what we talked about.
Yep.
Oh, and the left. Yes, thank you, John.
You got the pin? Yeah.
Is that the pin?
What was that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I wasn't even expecting the binocular certificate. I just happened to do some of the observations with my binoculars.
And if we kind of cushion the one.
Well, that's an
Scrape
amazing
against
carrying
each other.
case you have tonight.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Condry.
Thank you.
Hooray. Observing chair. Oh, I got to get your presentation out. Take your time coming up.
Hey, welcome to 2023. Started off with a lot of clouds. Hopefully, the rest of the year gets better. The evening planets, we still have Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus. Though for Neptune and Uranus, you definitely need some binoculars. If you've never seen Uranus before, on the 28th of Jan, it's close to the moon. So that might be a good starting point to start looking for it. Mercury currently still in the evening. It's very low in the sky and sets soon after sunset. Inferior conjunction tomorrow. No.
Okay. Make sure it's on, sorry.
That's the little diagram with the sun, Mercury in between, and Earth, not to scale. Then after that, you'll start seeing it in the morning sky. Venus still pretty nice in the evening sky, and on the 22nd, it'll be close to Saturn. So again, a nice conjunction to watch for. Mars, we saw lunar occultation of Mars in December, and for mostly the southern US, it's on the night of the 30th or the 31st. Unfortunately, we can't see it in Omaha because it's below 37 degrees latitude. But it's going to be really close, so still a nice conjunction of Mars and the moon. And that website called lunaroccultations.com is a good website to look at for occultations of the moon with different planets. The print is really small, but it's still fun to read. And if not, there's always Stellarium. Full moon tonight, new moon Jan 21st. I just put in Mars occultation because that's what it says, but it's not visible in Omaha. Meteor showers, the quadrantic meteor showers peak was this week. If anyone got a chance to see it through the clouds, great vision. And it's from the asteroid 2003 EH1. And I'm not sure what the comet S is. I think it's comets, but this is a link to the comet C/2022 is the Zwicky, so ZTF, I think E something. And that's the link. This is visible in the morning skies here, so you have to get up early or stay up late, either one. And this is from yes. Naked eye, I'm not sure. It just depends on dark skies, I suppose, but binoculars, telescope, probably. So yeah, Jan's supposed to be the month to see this, and in the sky.org. Yep, it's in Corona Borealis, and then it's going to move closer to the Dipper, I think. If so, that's something to look forward to. Yeah, thank you. And actually, I think it's astronomy. Their whole issue for the month of Jan is on comets, pretty much. How to photograph them, famous comets. So it's a pretty interesting issue. I haven't read it, but I've had a glimpse to it. Thank you. Thank you.
Outreach. You look at each other and see who's going to go first.
You already talked about.
Where'd you get that fine shirt, Mike?
From the OAS fan shop.
Oh,
This was a self Christmas present that I got, and Carmen got a shirt and I got a shirt, and OAS got this fine banner that we have now. So yeah, if anybody, you can go to the website. It's listed under club information. I think it's called the Fan Shop. It's a cafe press site, so you can get shirts, coffee mugs, a beach towel with John Johnson's picture on it. Couple other things. Yeah. Dog pajamas. There's all kinds of stuff. Outreach, not a whole lot going on. We have the Zrinski Astronomy in the Park this coming Tuesday. Assuming the clouds stay away like we hope they will, we'll start at sunset and go until everybody's too cold to observe anymore. Then on the 21st, we'll have another telescope work day down at the Brain Exchange downtown. I just got notified today from the Astronomical League that the telescope we won for the Horkheimer Foundation Award, that's going to the Valley Public Library. They should be shipping that, they said on Monday. So we should have that in time for that event. And one of the other libraries, the Ponca Library, said that theirs was shipping as well, because those Star Blasts have been back ordered. And so hopefully we'll see those start to come in, and we should have 4 or 5 to work on. Did you have a question, Leonard? Okay. And that's it for outreach.
cold month, lean month. They actually opened this side up, but there's a cord in your way. They seem to have moved everything over a little bit. Not those chairs. I mean, these. There's a gap against the wall now. There was no gap for a while.
So I've kind of thwarted my method of sneaking down here, but. All right. We had 3 scopes come home for the holidays this month. Both of the refractors are back, and the 8-inch stub is also back and available. Nothing went out. And if you see something here that piques your interest or tickles your fancy, let me know. We had a good inventory this time, so That's about it for the scope loan.
Oh, related to that. We had a donation by Diana of a tripod for the solar telescope. Yeah, the Coronado. So a new tripod for it and a case. And so, yes, I still have the scope, so I'll just take it with me. Okay.
Now, with the Christmas part, we have the tutorial when we're outside and it's burning a long time, like the Earth Day. And then we've got the OAS.
When we're inside and going through the atrium at like SAC Museum and because we had to, if you've ever been to the SAC Museum, we're constantly moving the telescopes to get spots because the shadow changes and the lattice work, and sometimes they move somebody in next to us and everything, but it's a fun time. Yes. Oh, yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? Well, you may not still be able to read from back there. Oh, someone took a picture. There you go. Yep. I mean, maybe if you want.
Or you could turn off some of the lights. I know.
Is that too much? I can't see you. Oh, I gotta be dark adapted. See? Oh, all right. What? Oh, yeah. You know, it's in my eyepiece. I actually have one in my eyepiece case. Yeah. You know, I recall at Misrule 2013, we had an individual who won a set of goggles that were red tinted at the banquet dinner. Yeah, I can't remember. There wasn't a member. It was someone who came in from out of town from Israel. Yeah. Did he? Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me get this out of the way. Oop. Jordan. Earth to Jordan.
Hello.
How's
Hello,
the
hello.
yeah, I can hear you. How's the upload going?
I'm at 56%.
Oh dear.
It's been a long day for uploading, but I've got the video here on my desktop and I can share my screen if that works.
Okay, we can try that.
Okay.
We have a tool
Go ahead.
time we can get through real quick and then we can hop back.
Yeah, that works.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
John Johnson, tool time. Okay. Here, let's see. Let me switch over. Can people see this at home? Ooh, we're really stretching it tonight. No, I'm running it directly on the machine. So, I mean,
Yeah, I want to, yeah, because I'm going to be. All right.
put that wherever you want.
Can you hear me now? Okay. I'm going to be doing a little bit different tool time tonight. Usually we talk about tools or something we use to observe, but I think I did something like this here a few years ago. I'm going to call it an observing tool time. And how this all got started for this particular little episode was the December issue of Sky and Telescope magazine. Can we do the overhead thing or can I just,
Well, I was gonna try to turn the light on for you.
oh, for the light at least?
Yeah. Okay.
You got a light?
Oh, okay, all righty. I'll stand still and let you guys do it. I have been getting this magazine for more years than I care to talk, but to me it is, as it says right here, the essential guide to astronomy. And I read it almost cover to cover every month. Of course, it usually comes out 2 months ahead of time, but anyway, so I got this probably back the end of October and I started reading through this article. And on the front page is this, it says, the first white dwarf discovery. That was the name of the article. And I'm not going to go through all the details of the article, but it was about this obscure star in Eridanus. How many of you have really say you've observed Eridanus? All right. Sonali says yes. Yeah. Or a few. Okay. Eridanus is one of the bigger constellations, but it is also one of the most dim constellations to try to track. It's sets there between Orion. Okay, we can go to the graphic. Orion here on the on your left, and over here above it is Cetus. So you can see it's a long meandering trail of stars. See the old classic connect the dots. And it is a river. Eridanus the river. It's been called other things through time and history. In fact, unbeknownst to me, Eric, if you got the newsletter and you looked at Eric's article on observing, he describes some of the stars and everything in it too. It's purely coincidental. I guess we realized it last night when we were talking on the phone. So it's like, okay, the Eridanus, you know, the brightest star at Eridanus, we cannot see from this latitude. It's actually below the horizon here. I think you have to be down about 30 degrees latitude to see it. It's called Acamar, clear down, and it is a very bright star. It's one of the first magnitude stars. Everything working? Oh, I'm moving around too much.
Okay, I got you.
Okay. So anyway, if you can see the screen, there's where Eridanus sits. We'll trace it out here. Actually, it starts right up here by Orion with Circe, and then it winds around here. These are who I'll be talking about in a little bit. Zarak, and it comes back up here, goes through a big loop over on this side, and then all the way down to the horizon. If you have a nice clear horizon and dark skies. To be honest with you, from my West Omaha suburban site, I can barely see any of the stars with the unaided eye. You can trace quite a few of them with binoculars if you know where to start. Maybe Zarak, I think that's one of the brighter ones there. So anyway, the article though is about a star. The Arabic name is Keid or Kid, K-E-I-D or K-I-E-D. And it is what I have my crosshairs on there. It's also paired with another star called Beid or Bid. If you are into Arabic star lore, Beid means egg and Keid means eggshell. There's another grouping of stars that are supposed to be an ostrich nest. So that's where those names come from. However, in typical, let me change this, typical astronomical settings, we go by what we call the, I'll get there. Nope, I didn't get it, did I? sensitive little thing in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take out the proper names. This is Sky Safari, for those of you wondering what this, I think one of the best star planetarium programs, especially for phones and tablets. Do you call this a tablet or a?
It's both.
It's both. That's right. That's a surface tab. Anyway, so we go by the Greek letters, the Greek alphabet for star names, and also what we call the Flamsteed list. So in the Greek bearer names of stars, these are called Omicron 1 and Omicron 2. And Omicron 2, there again, is the one we're most interested in observing or talking about here tonight. And that's what the article in this Sky and Telescope was. The actual star you see there, Omicron 2, is run of the mill, a little bit smaller. They call it a dwarf star, a little bit smaller than the sun, about the same color and classification. I think it's a K star. I think our sun actually is a G star. That'd be a topic of a whole nother night of whether we come up with all these star designations. But suffice it to say, it's about a little bit smaller than our sun. In fact, if we could trade places, our sun would be maybe a little bit brighter than that star if we were orbiting around that star. So it gives you an idea. So they call it a white dwarf. Well, it was discovered in 1783 that is actually a double star. And if we expand that, we see there on the screen a little star down here that starts to show up. Actually, William Herschel cataloged it and noted it was a double star. Now, the distance between that little spot there and Omicron 2 or 40 Eridani is, in seconds of arc, about 83 seconds of arc. Pretty wide. I mean, you can do that in binoculars, easy. But one thing was curious about this star. Well, once they realized how close, I say how close this grouping of stars is, and they did that by they were measuring back in the late 1700s, measuring the proper motion of a star. We say the stars are fixed, but they really aren't. They're moving just like we're, and if depending on how close the star is, you can detect over a period of a year or two that it's moved in relation to maybe further background stars. Well, this star had quite a large proper motion. It was like 4 seconds of arc a year. And so that meant, well, this star or these stars got to be pretty close to Earth. And they eventually figured it out. It was about 16 light years away. So then they got to looking at this little star. Well, we knew about little fainter stars. We figured, oh yeah, it's just a faint little star. And then I think it was Asaph Hall with one of the Clark refractors at the Naval Observatory started looking at it and measuring it, and they realized that that faint star is actually a double star, and it's what we call a binary. We're in this. What's cool thing about this Sky Safari program is it's actually showing the orbit. These two stars, or they orbit around a common center, as we say. But so the little white star, they realized that's not that's a bright star. I mean, as far as color classification. So they figured out that that's an A classification. And they were aware of other stars like that. There was that about that same time in late 1800s, they discovered the star that was what they call the pup star of Sirius. So they got to figure, okay, if this star is that feeble, but it's of that classification, it's got to be really, really hot. And it's got to be very tiny. And it dawned on them, that this star has got to be a massive star, but it's it's hardly even bigger than the size of the Earth. So you figure the density, and you hear these stars that if you picked up a spoonful, if you could, they would weigh tons. Well, that's where this star is. And they realized this was a new classification, a white dwarf star. And then they realized that other one, calculating the speed of this orbit, which there again, it looks tiny, but it takes about 230 years for them to orbit around each other. And they looked at its spectrum, and it was a class M star. So it's an even smaller star, but it's an old star that's gone through its cycle, and it's back as a red dwarf. And so it was a fascinating article to read. And so I said, I got to get out and see if I can see these. So my first attempt was about 3 weeks, now maybe a month. I don't know. It was one of the nights I just grabbed, I have a little 5-inch Maxitov on just an alt-azimuth mount. So I grabbed it, went out, set up, and through binoculars, I tracked down where this was and got the scope on it. And of course, I could see the alpha star, the brighter one, easily. And I could pick up the little faint smudge or spot here. And the white one, I was probably seeing the white one, which is about 9th magnitude, give or take 1 or 2/10. So I was seeing that, even light polluted skies of West Omaha, but I could not see the little red dwarf. So I got to try again. So last Sunday night, it was decent temperature. I rolled out my big 10-inch scope and star aligned it. So I just clicked on it and zoomed right to it, and fixing around with magnifications and focusing. And sure enough, there was that little red star there too. And it was, I could see obviously the yellowish one and the whitish one. Even on the screen, you can hardly tell. On the laptop, you can see it shows as a faint reddish color, which really was what I was actually seeing was the reddish color of those two stars. They're about 8.5 seconds apart, somewhere around them. You can see in the orbital inclination there, it's about at its farthest point, and will obviously loop around and get closer back, and at the point here in 50, 60 years probably will not be able to be seen as a separate star. But anyway, I felt that was quite accomplishment for an observing session last Sunday night, observing Omicron A, B, and C. Now, before I finish, where's my, if you do have Sky Safari, and if you've looked at the page about the information on it, it has some other curious things. How many are Star Trekky fans here? Oh my goodness, we got a room full of Star Trekky fans. How many have heard of 40 Eridani? Who was that from? Who was from there? Mr. Spock was on a planet orbiting 40 Eridani. And they have actually found a planet orbiting 40 Eridani now too. I think in some circles it's called Vulcan. So anyway, that's my story. It was kind of fun to get out there. So I do a lot of armchair astronomy. I'll be sitting there and my wife said, "What are you looking at?" "Oh, I got my Sky Safari program open." She just rolls her eyes, Just real quick, that same night, I was over here off of the arm of, or the arm of Orion, holding up the shield or lion skin, whichever way. But as you see, as we zoom in there, look at this little star here. Sonali's seen that one, right? That's one of the brighter carbon stars, W Orionis. Very red. So I quickly looked at that one. Yeah, it's definitely reddish color. And so I said, let me see if Heinz Crimson Star is is out. So I zoom down here to LIPAs. Let me see, where am I at here? I'm missing it. Oh, over there. Oh, way over there. Okay, there. Oh, nope, I'll get it. I'll get it. R. leporis. Heinz Crimson Star. Now that one is quite a variable. And it's the period of its variability is like 400 and some 30 days, 38 days, something like that. It's interesting to catch it when it's at its brightest because it is really just like a drop of blood on the background of the sky. It was, I could see it. It was fairly dim last Sunday night. So I didn't bother to check to see whether it's where it is in its variable cycle, if it's headed back up or down. But so anyway, that was my little observing session. Oh, one other star over here that's easy to see. Where did I go to here? Yeah. 32. In fact, this one is in the double star list, if I remember correctly, the astronomically double star list. Zoom in. Nope, I got to do it. Okay. This one is a beautiful yellow, and actually it looks a little white. It actually almost looks bluish or topaz in the telescope. So anyway, that was my little quick mini observing session last Sunday. Any questions, comments? All right, thank you. Somebody else, we ought to have a little observing thing like this every month, right? Oh, I better not take this.
You didn't have to hurt your fingers on your.
Oh, on my broken screen. I'll remember that next time.
Thank you.
I mean, I was also prepared to do it.
See, he's prepared, backups and everything. This ain't the first rodeo, right? Should we do a 10-minute break before? Okay. Let's do that. Then 20 after. Oh, got your attention. Sorry, that was Mr. Louis. Ride the umbrella. Okay. See, I'm not sharing my screen, which is good. And Jordan's co-host, so she can do her thing. Right? Yep.
All right.
Jordan, are you ready?
Yes.
Cool. Take it away. Oh, there you go.
Cool. Okay, so tonight we're going to be watching a presentation interview from an astrophysicist, theoretical astrophysicist. Her name is Rose Waff. She's over in the University of St. Andrews in Scotland, and she's in her final year of her PhD. So she just has a few months left before she finishes that, submits her thesis, and moves on to maybe postdoc or something else. Kind of like some of the other people that we've seen in the past. I found her on Instagram when I was searching for astrophysics PhD students. So there's a lot out there, and she's pretty active on her Instagram channel. One quick thing, can you guys still hear me okay? My furnace just turned on. Okay.
Thumbs up.
Okay, sounds good. So for this, if you have questions for her, you can send them to me through an email, or I'll put her email on the video at the end and also in the video description once this is uploaded to YouTube. My internet just upload speed is not good out here in the countryside, so it's been taking a while to get this thing up. But once it's up, I'll share the link with John and I think in the Discord channel so everyone can rewatch this. And I'd appreciate it if you share it with any, say, young person that you know that's interested in going into astrophysics, because Rose also published a book called How to Become an Astrophysicist. So it has some really great tips for kind of up and coming people, students, even adults wanting to go back into the study, just tips of what it takes. I also hope to share this video with some local high school groups. And then if you have suggestions for some future topics or presenters, I'm always looking for those. And for next month, which is February, I'm hoping to hear back from one of the handful of observatory, what did I call them? Observatory researchers here in the States. There's a few small research observatories, and I was trying to see if someone who works there, runs this telescope, say for researchers from around the country, if I can get a hold of them and they can give a maybe live presentation. If not, we'll just do another recorded one. So looking forward to that. But yeah, if you have any questions at the end, let me know and I will get this thing going. Let's see. All right, can everyone see this screen okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I can't remember, do I turn off my sound or I keep my sound going for the meeting? Do I mute myself? and
When
let-
you shared, did you share video, sound, and all that?
Should have.
Okay.
Well, let's test it real quick.
You should be able to mute your microphone.
Okay.
And it should still do the audio from it.
Okay.
Don't hear anything. You may have to mute your video too.
Mute my video.
So stop video. And then when you go to share, there'll be 2 check boxes at the bottom, like optimize for video.
I forgot about those. Okay. Never remember this thing. Okay. Now let's try it.
Now you can stop your video and that'll increase your bandwidth. It'll be like at the top when you go to move your mouse.
Sorry, what were you saying, John?
So at the top, when you move your mouse up, there should be, you'll see like the mute button for your audio as well as your video. It'll say stop video. That'll just stop your camera, but your video that you're playing will still go.
Good morning, Rose. Thank you for joining me for our lovely chat this morning. It's a pleasure. I just wanted to welcome you to the Omaha Astro Society and give everyone a chance to learn a little bit more about you and what you are doing all the way over in Scotland right now.
Well, good morning. I guess it's not morning for you, Jordan, but hi. Thank you for having me. So I'm doing my PhD at the University of St Andrews in Scotland. I'm at the point of writing up my thesis. All of the actual science is supposed to be finished, but in that way that I think happens for a lot of people, it's not quite finished. And I'm kind of doing as I'm writing at this point. A prominence is a cloud that happens on a star. And the sun has them, so probably anyone that is into observing knows what a solar prominence is, or a solar filament, depending on how you like to observe them. But they're big clouds that kind of stick up above the surface of the star, and they follow the magnetic field line. So they kind of make big loops. You can get them on other stars as well. They don't just happen on the sun. But if you have a star that's like the sun, but a lot younger, so it spins really, really quickly, then these prominences are just huge. They're so big. I mean, solar prominences are already big, and I definitely recommend a little Google, because there's like one really lovely image on Google Images where they put like a picture of the Earth next to a prominence for scale, and you just see how massive these things are. But they're nothing in comparison to young stars. They're like 100 times smaller than they are on young stars. So they're absolutely huge, and they form pretty far out above the surface of these young stars, whereas on the sun, they're, I was going to say close to the surface, not like on human distances, but on astronomical distances, they're very close to the surface of the sun. One bit of work that we did, we found that actually, if you look at these young stars, there are probably a lot of prominences around these stars, but you just don't see them when you observe them, because if you want to see them, you have to wait for the prominence to go in front of the star and kind of block out some of the light, so it kind of dims a little bit. A bit like if you were searching for exoplanets. And if it doesn't go in front of the star, then you don't know that it's there. And one bit of work that we did, we found that actually there's probably like a huge number of prominences, so much mass around these stars, but we just don't see them. So all of our observations could be, I mean, they're not wrong, but they're just orders of magnitude below what is actually there. You just have to be a bit careful if you make any kind of predictions based on the observations alone, because you're not seeing a lot of the mass that's there. And kind of, you know, when you explain it like that, it makes complete sense, right? But we were a bit surprised when this kind of number popped out and said, probably there's a lot more mass than the observations are saying. And it was kind of a moment of, I thought initially, oh, I've done something wrong. There's a mistake somewhere. But then when you kind of sit and think about it, it isn't actually that weird, because these prominences are really far above the surface. So the chance of them crossing in front of the star is actually quite small, because they're just not close enough to pass in front of the star from where we are observing. And it isn't actually kind of absurd or anything. It makes sense. But at the time, I was a bit like, that's strange. It would be easy to assume that, you know, they're not there because we're not seeing them. You know, there are plenty of observations of these prominences, but typically they're on, you know, a handful of stars. And so it would be very easy to just think, well, maybe there aren't that many stars that have them, but it's more likely that a lot of stars have them and we just aren't looking in the right place. You know, there aren't any like big surveys that are really looking at hundreds of thousands of stars to find prominences or anything. It's just, like you say, it's just kind of luck of the draw. It's unlucky if you're not seeing them. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's just, we weren't lucky that time round. So I'm in my final year. Normally in the UK, in Europe in general, PhDs take like 3.5 to 4 years. So it's a little bit shorter than in the US, but I took some time out for parental leave, and then COVID as well delayed things. So I'm in my final year, but I think it's now like my 5th year or something of my PhD, but I should be finishing by April. So the time is ticking at this point to finish. So it kind of varies from, you know, university to university and supervisor to supervisor. There's quite a lot of flexibility, but typically people will stay doing, you know, various kind of projects in a very similar area. So you might do just like one massive project that takes 3.5, 4 years to complete, or you might do kind of various small projects that all tie into the same theme. which is more how my PhD went, I feel is a bit of more of a safer option, because if one thing doesn't work out, you've got other things, rather than having one massive project. I think I personally would be very overwhelmed trying to complete a very big thing in 3.5 years and not having like a backup situation. So people that write very big simulations, they often have like more of like one specific thing that they are working towards. I think that would overwhelm me a little bit, having something like that. But equally, I do know people who have kind of crossed subjects as well, like stayed in astrophysics, but maybe worked on something more like star formation, and then kind of progressed and done a different project in just something else that's stellar physics, but not necessarily star formation. Because a lot of skills are transferable, right? So you can apply them to something else if you're interested in doing that. We never do it ourselves, right? Like science doesn't work by someone just sat there in a room by themselves with some books. It's not like all the cartoons that I saw as a kid of a scientist that just is in some sort of tower by themselves. It's all based on stuff that other people have done and other people's skill sets as well. So there are various people in my research group who are very good at coding, and I assume they enjoy it. And that's not my skill set, really. I can do things by brute force, stuff like that. My coding is not very efficient. I'm more comfortable, I suppose, with the more of what I do, really. And my codes are definitely not big fancy things like a lot of people's. I mean, I guess I definitely do more coding than the average person, but I don't consider myself to be a whiz kid with it at all. So it's not, it's not like necessary. We need all types of people in science, and you never achieve anything by doing it all by yourself. So there's lots of people to help in various ways, whether it's work they've already published or to help with the work you're currently doing. Lots of collaborations and stuff. So you hopefully find someone who's good at the thing that you're not good at, or good at the thing that you don't like. So that's typically what a lot of theoretical astrophysicists do. And whilst there are lots of people who would definitely identify with being an observer, a lot of people these days don't. There are quite a substantial amount of people that don't go observing. I'm like even more a step removed, so I don't even have any actual real world data in my work. That's not quite true. I sometimes do, but a lot of the time it's much more, I don't know, mathematical or simulation based. Of you can start with some observations or some principles that you know are true, and you can try to generate certain models about things, and then you can check, does that fit with our observations? The idea is that it should help us understand the physics a bit more, because if it matches the observations, then hopefully the physics you've got in your model is maybe not all of it, but the most important aspects of physics that determine whether or not that event is going to happen or how something will happen. Lots of PhD projects are advertised as a very specific thing, and then you apply to that topic. But my university is a bit more relaxed. Some universities are a bit more, I don't know, vague, if that's the right word, about projects, and sometimes they have very fixed projects, but other times you kind of apply to work with a specific person who does research in a field that you're interested in, and you can work with them to kind of make a project that fits your interests or the skills that you want to gain. For me, I did my undergrad in the same place as where I'm doing my PhD, and I did it in theoretical physics. I didn't do astrophysics, so I took a few courses in astro related subjects. So I did, like fluid dynamics and magnetofluids. So that's fluids with magnetic fields in, and it was a course that was kind of based in astro. I mean, I guess you could take that and make it more experimental physics, but a lot of the physics that was shown in that course was quite astro based. And I I did solar physics as a course as well. And I just really loved it. It was the aspect of physics that I really liked, and it being applied to astro was like a bonus for me, because I really liked astro, but I didn't want to do that as my undergrad. Which with hindsight, you know, I think we're missold that it's like kind of a niche undergrad and like it would be better to do just plain physics or something. But you gain a lot of really valuable skills from doing an astro undergrad. And you do a lot more coding in it than you would do in physics or theoretical physics. So, you know, now with hindsight, I can say that was maybe not like the best decision. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing theoretical physics because I loved it. It was the right thing for me at the time, but I chose not to do astro because I thought it wasn't as applicable, which is wrong. So, you know, that kind of, I kind of ended up in theoretical physics, and then getting the bonus of getting back into astro was then like, it was like, why wouldn't I do that? Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of how I found my way into astro. And because of the kind of physics that I liked, it was kind of natural for it to be more stellar physics or solar physics. And then I knew that I wanted to stay at the university that I was at for a whole bunch of reasons, but there wasn't that much. It's quite a small university, so there weren't loads of kind of potential supervisors that did the kind of thing I was interested in. And it just kind of was right for me to stay with the person who did my master's project. They were a good fit for me in many ways. We had a good working relationship, and I really just liked what I was doing for my master's project, which happened to be stellar prominences. So my PhD project kind of stemmed from that, really, which is a bit boring, I suppose, as a story. But yeah, it just, I don't know, it just kind of happened, I suppose. I don't tend to be attracted to, at the moment in my career, high risk projects. My supervisor is equally not attracted to them for their PhD students, I don't think. When you do kind of more high risk projects, there's a higher chance of getting something that you completely didn't expect. I mean, that's not necessarily true, but that's kind of the impression that I've got so far in my career, because you're kind of playing the wild card, if you know what I mean. But obviously a high risk project comes with the chance of it epically failing one way or another, whether that's that you can't solve it or it becomes difficult to publish or whatever. And that's not, to me, attractive as someone who's trying to get their PhD. It might be more attractive a bit later on in your career when you've already got your doctorate. I don't think I have had any particular moments of like, oh wow, that's really not what I expected. Often when I make a plot or something and I see something that's very much not what I expected, it makes me feel a bit nervous, because I feel like, okay, there's a bug somewhere, I've done something wrong. I did not expect that, this can't be right. And you think, that's a little bit suspicious. Often that turns out to be true, right? I make a lot of mistakes. I think that's human. I imagine a lot of people make a lot of mistakes. They probably just don't admit to it. Either that or I'm alone in the many mistakes that I make. Yeah, I mean, there are moments where something happens and you think, oh, I didn't quite expect that. A lot of the time, I think for me, it's because I haven't really thought my way around what I expected, rather than because of anything strange going on with the physics. You're definitely going to have an easier time if your model very much matches the observations or matches aspects of observations, because when it goes through the kind of peer review process of other scientists looking at your paper saying, yes, this should be published, or no, this shouldn't be published. You know, it's kind of intuitive that if it matches with observations, then it makes more sense to publish it, if you know what I mean. So you definitely get an easier time if you can tie it to observations. But equally, if your model comes back and very much doesn't match the observations, but it seems intuitively like you've got the important physics in there, then that's equally telling us something, right? Because it's saying, well, our understanding is very flawed somewhere. We thought we had the important things in our model and it's not working. It doesn't give us the observations at all. A negative result is still a result and an important one. And is why we need observations and theoretical kind of models and simulations, because they very much complement each other. We gain a lot more insight, I think, by having the two of them side by side. But they take very different skill sets. So I couldn't be an observer. I'm not a particularly outgoing person, so I don't enjoy the kind of thing that might initially spring to mind as outreach, where you're there talking to the public and there's loads of people and you're standing there giving, I don't know, doing a demonstration or whatever, that kind of thing. I mean, I enjoy how the public respond, I suppose, but I don't enjoy being in that situation. I'm very introverted and that's not my preferred way to spend my time. But there's so many aspects of outreach.
Well, your Instagram method of sharing all of that educational material, that's outreach.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's so many branches of outreach and so many just mediums in which we can do it. And there's going to be something that is right for everyone, we don't all have to like the same thing. But yeah, of course it does. The public, they ask such good questions for a start. They ask way better questions than scientists sometimes, because they come at it from a different perspective. They come at it without a whole bunch of like assumptions or preconceived ideas about things. So they'll ask you a question. It's the same as kids, right? Kids are amazing at it. They'll just be like, but why? Yeah, why? That's actually a very good question. Like, I don't know the answer, I don't know. We somehow, like, the more we learn, sometimes we think we understand stuff. It's not until you start explaining it to someone that you realize where your gaps are in your knowledge, because you can't explain something as well as you maybe thought you could. It's just inspiring. People ask great questions and it helps you to understand what you don't understand. And just sometimes you see the bigger picture, when you're spending, like you say, an entire day sat looking at your code and there's a bug in it and you can't find it and you're just feeling a bit like down about it. You lose sight of the big picture of what is it that you're actually trying to do. What is this work going to show or not show? And that's what you try to give when you're doing outreach. You try to give the bigger picture, because no one really wants to know how your code works. They want to know why you're doing something. So I often find that doing outreach helps me feel a bit more motivated and encouraged to go back, because it gives you that ability to see the bigger picture again and just feel enthused, because other people are enthusiastic. They wouldn't come to you and ask questions, whether that's Instagram or science days or whatever, if they weren't interested. I think other people's interest and enthusiasm definitely can be passed on. Sometimes we need that from other people. And I don't know what my favorite kind of successes of 2022 were. It was a bit of a strange year. I think it was for a lot of people. I got one of my papers published, so that was very exciting. Always a relief when that happens without too much difficulty getting through the peer review process. A PhD can be a bit lonely sometimes, because you have a lot of co-workers or friends that are doing a PhD, but your PhD is yours alone and no one is doing something that is that similar to what you're doing. So it's very different from your undergrad, where you can get a lot more practical help from your friends. I started finding more and more accounts on Instagram of other people doing PhDs, and it was just nice to connect with people in similar positions with similar experiences. If you doom scroll all the way back to the beginning of my Instagram page, probably take you a while. I think I started it not quite the very beginning of my PhD, but pretty early on. Originally, I was kind of sharing a lot more astrophysics content. Originally, I was sharing a lot more kind of not hardcore, but you know, like astrophysics concepts. I definitely want to get back to that at some point, hopefully soonish. But as my PhD progressed, it takes so much time to create content that is very educational. And I just didn't have so much time because, you know, the PhD process was taking up more and more of my time. I took the opportunity to share a little bit more of the PhD side of my life and putting less pressure on myself to only share astro concepts part of the page. That was kind of more when the page started to take off, really. It was, you know, I kind of thought I would find a few like internet friends who are also doing PhDs, but it turned out there were a lot of people out there that were doing an undergrad but wanted to do a PhD, or were younger but interested in astro and wanting to do their master's, undergrad, whatever, and potentially a PhD. And just also a lot of people who were already adults and were not interested in doing a PhD, but were actually interested in what it was like, which I didn't expect. Yeah, that was kind of when it started to take off, and I started to get more and more questions about how to follow that kind of path. It was manageable, although taking a lot of time, until I got to about, I think it was about 10,000 followers. And at that point, my DMs just became a complete mess. I mean, they're so chaotic, and I'm so sorry to anyone that sends me a direct message because I just can't keep on top of them anymore. So I do try my best to filter and answer some of them, but there's just so many now, it's not really doable. And I don't even have that many followers compared to a lot of accounts. So I try to kind of then redirect those questions onto my page. So if I see that multiple people are asking the same thing, then I try to like answer it in my stories or make a post about it. And because, you know, a lot of people have the same questions. We all feel like that. We have very similar questions to each other about things that we don't understand or maybe want to pursue but feel a bit lost. It can be helpful to pool those resources rather than saying the same thing a gazillion times. Yeah, sometimes people ask questions you've been asked before, but when it's a conversation, it's not, you know, it's different, isn't it? It's you get different perspectives, and hopefully, like you say, hopefully it helps other people see that they can do it too. You know, that doesn't have to be astrophysics. It can be whatever it is that they're interested in doing. The other people managing to do things despite the barriers, it is encouraging, and we all have that. You know, I look at people further ahead in their career than me in places that I want to be, and if you don't see people that you can relate to in some way, then it's not encouraging. Whereas when you can and you can see some of their experiences, and some of that is that they're you know, doing great from your perspective, but them also saying, well, look, I also had these things that made it difficult for me at times. It normalizes things. Paths are not easy for anyone, or not for most of us anyway.
Hence your book.
Yeah. Yes, and that was how that happened. I self-published a book on how to become an astrophysicist for kind of a lot of the people that follow me on Instagram. They asked me a lot of questions about how to kind of pursue this career, and it was starting to become overwhelming, just the number of messages, and they were all very similar questions as well. People have the same, not concerns, but kind of things that they're unsure about. And I thought, well, you know what, like I could just write something that would answer all of these common questions. Then I can direct people there, and hopefully it'll be helpful to them. And it saves me a lot of time trying to write the same thing hundreds of times a day. So, but yeah, it was nice to see that out there, and it was nice to see people taking their time to read it and enjoy it as well. And hopefully it's helping some people. We go through life and we kind of think, oh, life would have been so much easier, or that thing would have been so much easier if someone could have helped me with that, put something in place to help the people younger than us so that they don't have to have that kind of moment that we had, I guess. Yeah, so the doodles came from, they started at the beginning of my PhD. a lot more simplified and I like to think that my artwork has progressed in 5 years. When I look back at some of it, it's quite, it's a bit unrecognizable sometimes. But they started because I find a lot of physics concepts are quite difficult to grasp. Once you draw a picture, it makes more sense. Yeah, I guess a picture tells 1,000 words, right? You can draw a picture and it can really help you understand and kind of imagine what's going on. That kind of progressed, and as time went on, I got more and more just into doing artwork again for the sake of it, which was nice because that was something I hadn't really done since I was a kid, you know? I think like we all start off as little artists when we're kids, and somehow a lot of us lose it along the way. So it was nice to kind of get back into just doing it for the sake of it and enjoying it. That was kind of then the beginning of the next art project, which was, or is, I guess. I'm drawing a whole bunch of observatories from around the world, and I'm going to make a little illustrated book out of it. Well, I say little. Right now I'm aiming for 100 observatories, so it's quite it's quite a lot. I think I've done about 75. Wow. So this year I'm gonna finish it after my thesis. I'm trying to be good, and hopefully, you know, I'll write a little thing about all of them. Yeah. But yeah, so I took some of them very simplified. I did a kind of trial run of making a kid's book with it to test the process, because I'm planning to self-publish it on Amazon. I don't think it's really the kind of thing that's worthy of trying to get a book deal. It's just more like a passion project, if you know what I mean. But I wanted to test the process of how I would put it together as a book. So I did that as a kid's book. For young kids. Well, my toddler likes it, so that's something. Although they do call it Mama's book because it has a picture of me on the back with, like, you know, Rose is an astrophysicist, blah, blah, blah. You know, the little like author spiel thing. So they think it's my book rather than their book, which I don't really know how to feel about that. I'm terrible. I'm not very good at having time. I always try to fill it with something. I get obsessive about whatever it is that I am doing at that moment in time. So yeah, I recently picked up crochet. I'm now like obsessing over it and just crocheting a bazillion things. I don't know what it is, but I seem to do that a lot. So I'm sure I'll find something else to fill the rest of the year. I'm moving house soon, so that'll be exciting, but it will be a big job. The house is very old-fashioned, so I'm most looking forward to doing the office. I'm going to make that very, very astro-y. So I guess my plans for the year are just sorting the house and finishing my thesis, doing the art project to keep me sane along the way. And I need to find a job, so that'll that should probably have been a priority on that list. But well, I guess my dream job is that I love research, so I would love to stay in academia. So I suppose if I hope to pursue that, then I'll have to get a postdoc. Unfortunately, postdocs are equally quite short contracts. The dream job would be a permanent position, I suppose. And I very much enjoy doing outreach of various kinds. So there are increasingly kind of more options in terms of funding and job positions at universities that are like, you know, research and teaching, but also have an aspect of science communication or outreach as like a job requirement. So that would be like my perfect job, would be like a researcher, lecturer being allowed and paid to spend some time doing outreach. That would be like my dream job, but there aren't that many of them around, so we'll see. Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a good conversation. You know, it's always nice to chat to people about these things. Thank you very much, and same to you.
I don't know if you heard all the clapping, Jordan.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you for listening in, everyone. If you have some questions for Rose, I can pass on. She'd love to hear from you. and try to stay in touch as she finishes her thesis and PhD this year and see where she heads off to next. I'll also send out in the video email link with in another way the links to her books online. I got her How to Become an Astrophysicist book off of Amazon, and I think her kids book is on there too. And if you're interested, you can read a few of her papers that she published. She was the first author in 3 recently published papers, which is pretty big for, I think, any scientist researcher. Usually there's half a dozen other people on there. So to have your name first on a paper is great news. So those are pretty interesting, and it talks more about her research with the solar prominences and kind of what they were seeing. So does anyone have any questions right off the bat for this or any future things? Pause for effect.
I don't think so. Do you want to talk about next month?
Yeah, so for next month, I sent out a few messages to a handful of telescope operators. So these are people, men and women who are working at, say, some smaller research telescopes where for astrophysics researchers around the world, they usually ask for time on a telescope. So just kind of depends on what time it's available. And then the people who are managing, working, operating the telescope, I want to get a hold of one of them, not necessarily the researcher, but I want to get a hold of the telescope operator and kind of see what their life is like, staying up all night, you know, answering people's requests and sending data back.
And how do they sleep?
And how they sleep, yeah, what their sleep schedule is like mainly. So I remember working with one on the Subaru telescope back in college, and he was all the way up at the top of the mountain on Mauna Kea in Hawaii, and my mentor and I were back in her office on campus down close to the ocean, and we had one issue where we couldn't get any observational data, and we found out someone had left a light on in the stairwell right next to the actual giant room where the mirror, the scope was. And so I had to drive up to the top of the mountain with the guy, go turn off a simple stairwell light, and then we could finally observe. So they encounter some weird things like that. Someone just forgets something. So I want to hear more from those people, what they're doing nowadays. So yeah, hopefully we can get that. If you know anyone who operates a telescope, I'd love to reach out to them too. And maybe we can get a few people interviewed and then put it all together in one cool multi-viewpoint presentation. So any questions on that or ideas or contacts, let me know, or suggestions for future topics and speakers. I'd love to hear from you guys.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yep.
Oh, you guys need a break? Because we got a lot to talk about. 5 minutes. Or 9:10. How about that? 9:10. Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Why is it loud? Always louder. Is it Motorson? Let's check the list here. I think it's you. Yeah. Your microphone is disabled. Good time. There you go. Hello. And you can hear me now? Sounds good. Thank you. All right, blah, 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 blah. Secretary's report brief. This is the business meeting, everybody. There we go. Let's find our minutes here. Last month, do you want me to read them for you? Sure. We had a hybrid meeting at Came Farm in December. It was also our combination of holiday party. I'm sure, let's see. It's recording. Bigger, bigger. All right. Let's see, we talked about the usual things. We talked about SAC Museum, Santa Goes to Space. That was a lot of fun. The usual about the groups. Astronomy in the park, that did not happen. I think it was cloudy that night. Mike Motorson gave an update on the telescope program, on the budget. There's also a Facebook page for it. There were no awards given in December. List of the awards. Sonali gave the December observing report. Telescope loan program. Things were returned and one went out. No tool time. And the program was the holiday meeting. We went right into giving the minutes where the treasurer's report. Real quick, we mentioned the fact that the Missouri bylaws have to be reviewed and commented on. They were also posted on the OAS website as well as in the Stella this month. We have our new vice president, Steve Condry, over there, ladies and gentlemen. Discussion of old business was deferred to January. We talked about the Missouri bylaws, so on and so forth. Motion to close the meeting, Bill and Nina. Motion passed. Next meeting is tonight, hybrid. Blah, 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 blah. Are there any corrections? Anybody remember anything different? Probably not. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as read? I think Cleet beat you. So Steve C. and Cleet B. That's my notes in my head. A motion is made and seconded to accept the minutes as read. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. All right. Now I'm going to try to make this bigger for you here. We have our treasurer's report for the month of December. You want me to read it too? All right. Income was $272.47 in dues. We had $100 in outreach donations for a total of $372.47 in income. Expenditures was $653.53 for the holiday dinner. Still waiting on door prize receipts. $135.08 for the library telescope program, totaling $788.61. So the account balance is $14,955.96. If you're thinking I'm going to read this next slide, I'm not going to read all of that. But this is for the year, the whole kit and caboodle. Income, $6,671.24. Expense, $78.35.98. So the balance at the beginning of January was $14,605.11. And the balance at the end of December was $14,955.96.
Because you have a difference of what about $15,000, several $100 difference. Yeah, that's because they have. I don't know.
Some checks may not have cleared, or.
Oh, I guess there is that possibility.
prices for the holiday, they have those funds still encumbered. So they're not taken out yet.
Yeah,
That'd be about right, holiday expenses.
So what was the income again? The income was $6,100.
6671.24.
So there's a differential there of about $1,200.
$1,200.
Is that much? Yeah.
Yeah. So that could be the anniversary stuff clearing. Should be cleared, but it'd be holiday and or anniversary party. Stuff could easily be. Still in limbo.
Well, that's good point. Because we took in money to have the dinner.
And then other expenses there. Well, dinner costs quite a bit more than the.
Right.
The revenues for the dinner.
Because the banquet was 2571.44. We don't have the income from the tickets of the dinner for the 60th on there. That's probably what it is.
That should be on the 66.
Yeah, because it was, we took in like 25. Was it 25 or 24? No, that's all. That probably is what the difference is. Because it was like 900 to 1,000 for that. Okay.
Our 60th anniversary dinner. Yeah.
That's
We all gave what, 25 for that?
Yeah, it was around 50, 51. We had some people who did not show.
That's $1,200.
And then there's a percentage of the transaction that gets taken off the 25. And then the price went up to have the event from their side. So it was actually, instead of $24.95 per dinner, it was actually like $27.
But that's about $1,200 right there.
Yeah.
So that would be, yeah, where that is.
Yep. There's a little bit of a transaction fee that comes out of, God, what's the name of it? Eventbrite. And it's like $1 or something per transaction. So it's not unlike when we do PayPal for dues.
Well, my number actually, the 51 times 25 came up to $1,275. So minus 50 of that, that's $1,225.
Yeah.
That's still about that amount.
And then that's the difference between the two.
Yeah.
You gotta start spending.
Oh, hold that thought. All right. We're going to do Vice President's report. Vice President, how are things? Woohoo! I'll take that. It's a cold month. Oh. Old business. There was some discussion because we had the telescope fleet in the previous business, right? I'm sorry, I can't remember all of it.
Give you a quick update. We were discussing reducing our inventory of 6s.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we're down on the last 5. We discussed donating one of the Schmitz that we received as a donation to the luminarium.
Well,
That's treating that
That's-
into-
it's not a donation. It's more of like, this is the OAS property. And we would like to store it here and use it for events that we partner with you. Yeah.
stuff, doing something that
Yeah.
they have a very positive nibble for Mike Simmons and all that.
I guess I kind of object to us just turning right around. And fresh over. I think it should be offered to someone in the club at least as first right of refusal.
you could come up with a price. Very nominal, but I just personally have a problem just donating it straight across. That was given to us by who?
The light switch.
Light switch was. It was a circuitous path that came from somebody who got someone's name and passed it to me. That's the meat, is an 8-inch, 8-inch. Is that from the real estate agent? Okay. You told me about, I thought, that's right. It came from the party public school system. I don't remember. That's not what I. No, this one was, trying to tell us. It's a Meade Schmidt cast grain on, well, then you guys have trouble trying to update the software to get the light switch. Yeah, they were. Yes, this is one of the reasons why I'm kind of, well, I.
It got updated. It's updated.
Sure. And it also has a very unique hard format, which a little bit.
Yeah, but it's never going to have another update. It's updated as far as it's going to go. Mhm. And I don't mind if we put it in the Stella as an entry. And say, to, you know,
For sale?
yeah.
Right, John?
To me, that would, yeah, at least first crack at it. I mean, it was donated to OAS. And if we just turn around, I mean, if we get a little something for it.
That goes into the telescope loan program. Yeah, I
Oh, yeah, but you know, so from a deserving member of the club, we'll just probably give them a break. It may be a difficult,
Let's meet get away for $1.
no, I don't know how.
I do think it's important to note though that once the scope has been given to OAS, it belongs to OAS, and OAS can do what we choose to do with it.
Yeah.
We can give it to Mexico or another.
Well, Grand Stoke has plenty of it.
Yeah.
I have other reasons to.
Does Doug Kappa use telescopes for his?
Well, they're.
Yeah, no, he does more aeronautics, but he does a lot of outreach. And I've loaned him lots of stuff. That's in his interest. But I know he does a lot of. We need to vote on that.
We can table it until next month. We've got a lot to talk about.
But anyway,
Put it in Stella.
the Stella's a good route, I'm happy to do it.
Put it in the Stella.
But it's been checked out exactly 0 time.
Okay.
Difficult.
Let's table till next month to try to determine the money. You know, we can do some research, like if you see anything else that's being sold. And then maybe the March or April Stella, it can appear.
Okay, for sale.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We'll do due diligence on it.
Sounds good.
That way we can vote next month. Okay. Oh, miserable bylaws. We're just tabling it until next time. Yeah. Okay, so I don't know how many folks got a chance to look at the draft miserable bylaws. I was supposed to. But there's been a few of us who've been in these meetings over the last several months that have been going through these. I know there's been changes, there's some typos, things like that. This was rushed out to us because it's like, talk to your folks before January. And it's like, if I don't get this for the December meeting, no one's going to see it.
Yeah.
So at least we got it on the website, put it in Discord, and there's an entry in the Stella about it. Basically, it discusses the operation of Miserable, right? Let's see. Blah, 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 blah.
You know, there's a new edition out. That's gonna put in stuff now.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah. Meeting is this coming Monday. They want you to be in it. Well, let's go through. If you're not gonna be in it, you need somebody else from the book to be in it.
You mean the proxy? All right, okay. I have not gotten through all my email today. Oh, okay. I don't think a lot of this has changed.
Oh, the stuff in red, is that what's changed?
I believe that's the new stuff. So all national council members must be league members in good standing and at least 18 years of age.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
The highlight there is that.
Yeah, it looks like it was the
Second change.
second.
But then it also has, what do you recommend? See, this is still a draft.
Well, if it's a draft, then we can play with it, or we can just say this.
Oh, there's been a lot of playing.
Well, my thought is, we don't have to, we're not the authors here.
Right, right.
We can
right.
say, this sounds good to us, let's move on. You know?
Regional vice chair of a 1-year term and can succeed themselves. So right now, Peggy is the region. No, wait a minute. Peggy's the regional chair. Who's? That's a 2-year term. So she's coming to the end of her 2-year term this year. Regional vice chair.
What did they do that,
They represent us at Alcon and stuff.
okay, so she wouldn't then. Necessarily.
They go to the business meetings in Alcon.
Yeah.
Okay, so the regional and the vice chair goes to those.
So the regional representative does that, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Not her. She runs the Israel.
No, she is the regional representative for us.
right, yeah, and the vice. chair
Peggy.
is the Sacred place. And-
Who's the regional chair then? That's what happened.
So she's the region, Peggy, she's the regional chair.
It seems like there's 2 separate ways of referring this because it says regional chair and then regional representative. This
This row?
There are 4 separate positions.
It looks like this is-
mid-states region of the astronomical league. I know that Alcon laws are also up for voting.
Okay,
Thank
we'll- we'll-
That's March.
okay, let's
That
go
just
through
be
this.
paid.
Secretary treasurer, a 2 or 3-year term. Right now, I thought it was a 1-year, but it's a 2, Mike, because you're currently,
That's what she said. I already gave her comments on that. My suggestion should be a 1-year term.
okay.
And the understanding, of course, is you're gonna re-elect that person unless you got a reason not to. That allows them to replace somebody quite easily if they're not satisfied with what they're doing.
That's true. That's fine.
She said 2 or 3 years, but she's happy with me. Even what she wanted me to stay there permanently. I've seen a region chair, a region vice chair.
They're not in yellow, they must have been there.
We pause for a second. I know, it's just, we might get heated debate, that's all.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
no.
people have questions and their questions need to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
And
So do we have to just, John?
yeah, that top paragraph talks about.
Have we answered or highlighted, what do you recommend? I mean, have we answered that one? What our
Do we
opinion
need
is?
to?
I was only in 2 of the 8 meetings. Because they were on Monday nights at like 7 o'clock and
No, I guess. Okay, my question, gentlemen, then would be this, do they want our comments on this?
They want your comments on anything that's in. Do they have a listing of what the offices do? I was gonna say, it's down below, and I have a description of the office. Yeah, down further. There is, yes. Well, I guess we need to see what.
Okay, well, while we,
Okay.
okay, the regional chair does those 9 things. The vice chair will be those 3 things. Okay. So let's go back up to where we're.
I know this is tough and I'm sorry. There was a lot of discussion about contingencies. So,
Well, okay, so that's why the contingencies is 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. You're out.
yes.
So let's go back up there real quick. So we can go through that. I think there's rhyme or reason, and then we can circle back if we didn't. If we have to circle back again. So you guys, 1 year term. Is that may agree to that for the regional vice chair. That sound good to you all?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
And then-
that's fine.
Good chance to reelect. Yep, okay, and then secretary treasurer.
Used to
Michael,
be two.
was it two?
Used to be two.
It used to be two.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Michael-
it's been one for me, and I recommend leaving it one.
Okay, and Michael, you had a good thought, because if you don't like the person, you get.
They can say, yeah, because obviously you're probably reelected unless you're not to go down.
Yeah.
So you don't jump forward saying, I want to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recommend
Yes,
one.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, let's say we recommend one. And then the last highlighted thing in regional representative, yeah, it should be 20 minutes. That's.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Well, they didn't highlight it.
And here, but it's not worded right. You gotta add the, so the. That's a 1 year break in term, then again.
Regional representative.
Yeah, well, who is the regional representative?
That's big.
Okay, is that the regional chair?
With a
Is the
year
regional
break being
No, it's
between
not.
being on-
It's not. The regional,
Before being
the regional chair runs the fiscal.
Right.
The regional representative is the one that goes to.
Oh, okay, okay.
And the national
Gonna be a focus.
astronomical league
Okay,
things.
okay. Well, then, yeah, that sounds good. 21 years. Does anybody think they should be younger?
No.
So what they're doing is they're asking for our input
Yeah.
on changes.
Yeah, yeah. Are you ready for your opinion?
They're not, they're asking for just an opinion, because this is not the current bylaws with suggestions in it.
So let's do this. Let's go back up in the Stella, because a copy of her email was put in the Stella.
But the most latest version came today in your email.
Yeah, well, let's go through this one first. From our regional rep, these past 2 years, bylaw committee worked with President Alcorse from the Astronomical Society of Eastern Missouri, Southern Missouri, blah, 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 all these clubs. We modified and streamlined many sections to best reflect the actual workings of Misrule in an intense consecutive 8-week Monday night phone call starting in September, ending in November. We're now at a pivotal stage where all club members and their leaders need to review and submit comments before the final amending scheduled for the second week of January. We have a major uncertainty of turnaround time for the National Executive Committee to get these on the meeting agenda, told anywhere from 1 to 3 months. The goal is to have these reviewed and accepted as amended by the National Executive Committee to be done by February or March for regional vote at our 2023 convention in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The meeting scheduled for the second week of January will be an official regional council meeting comprised of officers, club members, or their proxies, and the bylaw committee. To accomplish this, the Missouri Regional Council meeting must have a quorum. Please consider this a priority and give me your blah, blah, blah,
She wants our.
yeah.
I didn't need any more into that.
So we don't have to vote on anything.
No,
No.
we're collecting comment.
Yeah, and then John, you should make those, we all thought that the secretary treasurer should be 1 year, so you should. that would be-
Yes. And that's also why we're recording it, so I could remember it.
That would be our comment.
Yes. Okay, 21 years of age, that's good. If no convention is held in a given year, the term shall run until a position is filled.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah,
okay,
maybe some of that's done in the business meeting.
Thank you, COVID.
yes. Inactive national officers, regional chair or representative who, in the view of the National Executive Council, does not participate in live or virtual council meetings in live or virtual, is not active. President may appoint a regional chair or representative to serve to the next regional election. In other words, this is to replace somebody if there's a problem. Okay,
But it says if they're not active or not a member for 3 years, I thought earlier it said they have to be a member of good standing. So as soon as you're no longer a member of good standing.
Active
member of the league committee.
Or is not active member, meaning you haven't participated in
whatever activity you're supposed to.
You're not doing it. You're still a member.
Probably,
Sure.
yes.
Yeah.
You can't go AWOL from the meeting.
I mean, all this red is new stuff, is that right, John? Is that your?
I believe so, yes.
So somebody's put a lot of thought into this already. Whether it's just Peggy herself or.
That's the whole committee's been working on it. Yeah, a bunch of it was copied from other organizations.
Okay,
Yeah.
So this is
Has
good.
it circled back to where you were before?
Okay, so that sounds good.
Because that's when you know you've done.
Do we agree with, everything enacted national officers? We can go-
I do. I mean, the years might change and the sections might change because they're copy pasting and they haven't connected with the dots yet.
There's no section 5.
Oh,
Yeah, there is, yeah. It's got
like I said, they're copied from other,
AL bylaws.
Yeah.
Where they're getting that.
So no person may go.
I think they don't.
they cannot be a regional chair and a regional rep at the same time.
Good plan.
Okay,
That's good.
that's good. Duties,
That's all. As it.
usual.
Changes made there.
Proxies may not be assigned by a proxy holder, and all proxy holders are allowed one vote. In other words, you can't be a proxy and then proxy to somebody else.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, you
that's
got-
fine.
you got fine.
Yeah. The league's regions and their committees and councils are considered service sections that are created by operations of the league's bylaws and standing resolutions. Only miserable officers can conduct business at the business meeting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
reasonable.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
Okay.
Otherwise you get too many opinions of people who don't have the authority.
Yeah, if you say open the floor to comment, that's different. Yes, okay. Virtual meetings. Virtual options can be utilized for any meetings if available, if the committee members are notified by electronic means at least 2 days in advance of any proposed meeting.
Probably okay.
That's not bad. I don't like putting a timeline on something like that.
Well, you don't want to invest time.
That's true. It should say, well, okay, I would have put a minimum of rather than at least.
Yeah, yes, I would.
Okay, then change
Why don't you
that,
change that
minimum
to
of 2 days.
Yeah. Because I
I
agree.
think
with you.
that's what they meant. That's what they mean.
Yes.
Just so that they can't go in this morning and go to
Oh, I
the
would.
meeting
too,
online.
personally.
Yeah.
But they could do it even at a previous meeting. Well, next meeting will be virtual. Yes.
Yeah, but, yeah. Okay.
Executive committee meeting must have a quorum of 5.
So I don't understand that.
Because they rearranged the council,
Yeah,
they talked about streamlining it.
Okay.
so that probably has to be changed based upon your number of officers total.
Yeah, they got it. They have to do.
Well, they have to have a member. Minimum of 3 societies present.
Yeah.
Which gives that a total of 7. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we were at Miserable Conference and they're doing the business meeting and only 2 clubs are present, then you can't have a meeting.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Because you have to have.
in other words, come on, get in the room. Stop talking.
Exactly. And then the B part there, it says AL bylaws, Article 6, Section 3.
2/5 of a quorum of club presidents or their proxy be met prior to conducting business. And that's a reference to the AL.
References in before, so they've added them now.
You think that's? what-
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and then, so we have to agree with that.
At the yearly convention business meeting, 15 members of the miserable shall constitute a quorum with at least 3 member societies present. Only miserable members may vote with all decisions conducted by majority vote.
That sounds reasonable.
That hasn't changed. No person may cast more than 1 vote at the regional council, even if that person holds a regional office position and club president position.
Yeah, so they don't want to have two.
Yes. Okay. Miserable conventions may be canceled for reasons of pandemic or other exigent circumstances.
Yes, yeah.
That's fine.
So to get the
Yeah.
average.
Technically, it should see beyond the control of the organization. Elections. This is just a comment. Floor nominations. More than one nominee, does voting consist of handwritten ballot?
More than
If
one.
nomination is actually votes between two people.
Oh,
Oh, like put it in a hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's more of a question to people.
that's something that maybe.
People actually produce their positions.
Okay.
Just would be.
And.
To be not anonymous.
Hand would be fine. Financial national assistance. The region may request financial assistance by the method established by the league's standing resolution number 3 to the National Committee. The following: 1, facilitate the normal operation of Misrule, to aid in the operation of the regional convention, assist in retiring debts incurred by the, should be Misrule, special projects or activities planned to grow the region. Yeah, that too. Same with this one, contracts. Only authorized persons may enter into a contract. Well, if it's like, we're going to have a dinner for Misrule, that can be a contract.
At least the convention's occurring.
Yeah. Exceeding
You sign a contract.
300. Authorized persons, however, may not enter into contracts in any amount exceeding 300 of 500 in the aggregate.
Yeah, for a total for contracts.
Yeah,
You think
they
so?
can't total more than $500.
$500.
Oh,
Yeah, that should say it or 500.
No, if people.
Well,
sign it.
oh, sure. Yeah,
All of you.
okay, yeah.
does that look fine, Eric?
Yeah, my point would be is because prices are rising, they're gonna have to just
Yeah,
find that
that's
out
gonna have to
and
be more.
adjust it with inflation. That's the only thing. That they might want, that seems very skimpy, 300, 500.
Yeah.
That just-
And you know, if
They're having peanut butter.
right, and
jelly.
I mean, the AL bylaws are coming up for a vote, and that may already have been changed in their draft. That's not reflected in what they pulled this from.
I think you could make a comment about look at what venues cost. Venues of food, I mean, there's.
Yeah.
Venue.
You just wanna be conscious of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're making 100 copies at Costco or wherever, you don't need that.
There doesn't seem to be much changes in that.
I'll have them review what those kinds of costs are
Yeah.
and adjust the amount.
Regional chair stipend to be decided.
Yeah, and that's something they have to look at their history and.
Yeah.
All that's. I'm, well, yes, none of us here, unless maybe Bill, you would know a lot more about that since you're.
I think it used to be like 250. It's
It's just 400. You could do something like a percentage of UPM.
If you scroll up, it shows what it is now.
And you guys, if it's consistent, then yeah, you know, then let's just say, yeah, if someone said 400 for some reason, so them, and if it's up there somewhere, then great. Yeah, there's.
Okay, there's some, the seed money was changed to 750.
12 years ago. Yeah.
And again, I would question if that is enough at this time.
That's a great question.
So what you might want to look at again is that per diem, which is federally determined.
Yeah, I mean, that's used by pretty much everybody, those tables of per diem, just using those as a reference, because
Yeah.
if you can say reference, right.
That'll be based on location too.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you gotta go to Anchorage versus Annapolis.
Ooh, I'll go to Anchorage.
Well, this is Misrule. We're never gonna go to either of those.
That would make a great cutout. Mid-states region, that mid-state.
Okay, so John, you did your due diligence.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know we took a lot of time on that.
And what's that old word? Hold their feet to the flyer, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep rolling, man.
Yep. Okay. Now we have to go to new business. Budget.
Really?
It's January. Surprise. Wow. You trust me very well, don't you? Some amounts did change. The post office box went up. Yeah, look.
Match all the budget items to the per diem chart.
No. Now, let me say this. Just because something is listed in the budget doesn't mean we actually do it in that year. There's been a line entry in expenses for Astro Park for Rock, and we have not done it for a long time. So don't let numbers like that scare you, okay? So, yes.
Because this year, and again, we had $6,600 expenses this year, not including our 60th anniversary dinner, right?
Right.
So that looks a little lean to me.
This is income.
Yeah, but what I mean is, if we're spending 66, what I'm just saying is, we do have 15,000 pool that we
Yeah.
can take money out of, so. I mean,
Remember that last year, the expenses greatly exceeded our projected income.
It did.
It came out pretty well for
that's
the-
fine. Yeah.
Yep. What you,
So let's talk about.
the one thing that you don't see on here is the calendars.
Right.
Well, Mike spends all that time doing it. It's actually a loss because it's the money's being eaten up in his time. And we're not making any money off of it. And people can order them. So that's the one thing that you got removed. Okay.
Visuals like the dollar.
Yeah. Yeah. And the Amazon Smile donation, that varies, right? So that's what we're thinking. Outreach is probably more than 500.
Again, that varies. because of COVID.
It's like 700 to 900 the last 2 years.
Okay, well, we should probably.
But I'm being a little conservative on that. Rent is the buildings at Astro Park.
And we don't get it. Oh, that's what-
What's that?
They didn't talk anywhere near that much. Talked about $30 last year.
Make it up and out.
Okay. But
They got 2 buildings. It should be $30 a piece, right? They should be.
When I was treasurer, they were never all rented. There was usually one rent.
One was refurbished.
But is it rent?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the expenses?
Are you ready? Okay, you ready for this? All right, here we go. That's the lighthouse. That's the outhouse. That's pretty close, right? Yeah, I know. I didn't. Yeah. There's that 1,000. Don't worry about that. Star Party food. We didn't go anywhere near that, right? So mowing was 3 something, 4 something.
I agree with the numbers. You have it there. I would look at the numbers.
Okay.
It's easy to look, and I think it's more than $500.
Okay.
Yeah, John, it doesn't, because again, what's our saving grace here is we have $15,000.
Yeah.
That's our saving grace.
Astronomy Day, 75. League dues, 800. That's based upon the number of people. Awards, 75. Education scholarship, we haven't done that. We haven't had an award to give out. Okay, that's just there for that. Holiday door prizes is 200. Refreshments was 500. IDA membership, that's like a donation, that's 100. Insurance went up, that's 330. Telescope program supports 250. Office supplies 80. Don't know, we kind of used it. Post office box did go up, it's 156. Surprisingly, if you go to Bennington, it's actually cheaper, but Don't want to have Omaha Astronomical Society with Bennington, but presidential discretionary expense, I'm not gonna increase that. Program expense, I don't remember us using it much the past year, but that's fine. Refreshments, that's usually for stuff here. We haven't done that. Domain, email stuff, 250, that's about right. Telescope loan program repairs. Now, this is a number just carried over from the previous year. Okay,
Major projects other than rebuilding the base of 13 inch.
okay.
We don't have to pay anything for Zoom anymore?
We haven't had to pay for Zoom.
Thank you.
That's just if needed, if suddenly had an issue.
That if needed.
It's at 0.
It did a minute ago. You
I just changed it. Yeah.
And John, you know what's nice, John, is
I
that
know, I watched you
if
change it. I'm
it is
asking.
needed, you've got your discretionary.
I mean, should there still be?
Yeah.
something?
No. No,
No one said anything to me that I can't do it.
no,
We're happy.
it's fine.
Yeah.
We're happy.
Well, I have to be the representative if you're meeting on campus, otherwise you have to pay rental fees.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the budget as presented.
I second it.
Bill, Eric. All those favor of the budget as presented, say aye. All opposed?
We got done in 7 minutes.
All right. Okay,
We fly, Ted.
this is gonna be, okay, so
Those should be tabled.
I move we table the other.
That motion.
Let's discuss them.
our motion has been put forward to
Second it.
table the last two new businesses. Okay, and let me,
You make decisions. and
okay,
bring it.
okay.
Make suggestions
Um,
and bring it.
Nina, Eric, so let me see, budget, I gotta write my,
Reach out for Israel.
yeah, remember, we're hosting that next year.
I know, there's a, have you looked at the site stuff?
No,
There's an excellent timeline stuff that we.
okay.
It worked very well, didn't it? It was great.
Well, I, just to make some comments about it real quick. I know that we have to get our rental in June for the park, because they only take it a year out. I want to repeat 2013, so I want to do Mahoney.
Yeah. Good, yeah.
I think that worked out pretty well.
Very well.
And since, and many people might not know this, but Clay Anderson is now director of the Sac Museum.
Right. Yeah, he is.
So we might have John.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
Oh, let's end the business meeting and we can discuss about the Sac Museum thing here. Is there a motion? Okay. Table the items. All those in favor say aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Yay. All right, that's cleared. All right, remember, next month is going to be February meeting. Please note, there could be a new room next month. I don't know the exact room yet.
But that would be prominent.
You will notify us, I'll post it on the
So,
board.
yeah,
Right, you have a
It-
question, Divided. I know the planetarium this way is gonna be closed as of the end of this month.
so
So
the date's like the 30th of January when all this is changing, so.
Updating or closed? It'll be remodeled, it'll be like no access. No, but we will continue to have, there in this building, yes. Be a. Yes, you'll still have classes, so we'll be able to meet in this building, just not in the east half, it'll be somewhere in the west half.
Is there a motion to adjourn the business meeting?
Second it.
Bill?
Second.
Jinx? Bill, Eric. All those in favor of adjourning business meeting, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
Aye.
Okay. Quickly, tell the story about what you saw at the Sac Museum. We're done. Thank you, everybody. But listen up. This is a good story.